Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to take a seriously deep dive into the operating system that runs your reality. We're pulling together cutting-edge neuroscience, ancient wisdom, and the psychology of peak performance to try and decode the nature of the mind, the self, and, well, what some people have called the great game of life. So let's just kick things off with a huge question, one that's going to frame this whole journey for us. What if all of these completely different fields, separated by thousands of years, different cultures, different methods, what if they were all pointing to the exact same fundamental secret about how we achieve the extraordinary? Okay, let's get into it. To even begin to understand that secret, we've got to first get a handle on our default programming, how we operate day to day. And for that, there's no better guide than Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, who gave us this brilliant map of our everyday mind. Okay, so he says our mind basically has two agents running the show. On the left, you've got System 1. He calls it the autopilot. It is blazing fast, totally intuitive, and it handles something like 95% of our daily life without us even noticing. Then on the right, you have System 2, the pilot. Now, this is your conscious, analytical mind. It's slow, it takes a ton of effort, and you only really call on it for the hard stuff, like solving a tough math problem or learning something totally new. But here is the kicker. The system's biggest flaw, and Kahneman points it out himself, our analytical pilot, our System 2, it's lazy. It's just inherently lazy. So most of the time, it doesn't want to do the hard work. It just accepts the automatic and often kind of flawed suggestions that come from the autopilot and just goes along for the ride. And that is our default state. We're basically running on subconscious programming with very little conscious oversight. So what happens when we push beyond that default state? What about those incredible moments of peak performance? Those flashes of insight where everything just clicks, when your actions and your awareness just merge and that sense of you seems to disappear entirely. This quote from big wave surfer Dave Kalama, wow, it gives us a real glimpse into that state. He's talking about what psychologists now call flow, a state of such total immersion that performance just goes through the roof. It's not about thinking faster. It's a totally different way of being, where the conscious eye just gets out of its own way. And what's amazing is that modern neuroscience can actually show us what's happening in the brain. The term is transient hypofrontality. Sounds complicated, right? But it's not. Transient just means temporary, and hypofrontality means the prefrontal cortex goes quiet. So what does that mean in plain English? It means the part of your brain that generates self-doubt, that inner critic, the part that worries about the past and the future, it literally goes offline. The self goes silent. And here's where it gets really wild. This cutting-edge discovery is almost a perfect echo of wisdom from thousands of years ago. Check this out. The Hermetic texts from ancient Egypt described an almost identical process. To leave the senses of the body idle is just another way of saying you need to quiet that constant chatter of the default mind, that lazy pilot and that error-prone autopilot, so that a more profound awareness, what they called the birth of divinity, can finally emerge. It's the same idea. So we have these two really distinct states, right? The chattering, everyday mind and the silent, high-performance mind. So the real question becomes, how do we build a bridge between them? Not just by accident while surfing a giant wave, but on purpose in our everyday lives. And the key insight here is that the goal isn't to escape or get rid of our autopilot. We need it to function. The goal is to use the focused, deliberate power of our pilot to intentionally rewrite the subconscious scripts and beliefs that our autopilot runs on. It's about shifting from being the program to becoming the programmer. This is where Roxy Nafousi really hits the nail on the head. She explains that your reality isn't really shaped by just your conscious thoughts or some kind of wishful thinking. No, it's shaped by the deep, subconscious beliefs that are coded into your autopilot, the beliefs about what you truly feel you deserve to have and experience. That is the code that we need to rewrite. So when you pull all our sources together, a really practical 4-step path starts to take shape. Step 1, you use Kahneman's model to just realize you're running on a program in the first place. Step 2, you get crystal clear on the vision for your new program, just like Nafousi advises. Step 3, you actively work to remove the old, buggy code of fear and self-doubt, a process you see in ancient texts and modern psychology. And finally, Step 4, you align your daily actions with your new intended reality. That creates the conditions for flow and real transformation. And when you really commit to this path, to reprogramming your inner world, something fundamental starts to shift. It completely flips the script on how we're taught to chase success and happiness. Look at the left side. This is the default path for most of us, right? It's have, do, be. The logic is, when I have the money, or the right job, or the perfect relationship, then I'll do the things I love, and finally, then I'll be happy. See how our state of being is always held hostage by some external thing? But the path of transformation on the right flips it completely. It's be, do, have. You first decide who you are going to be: confident, worthy, abundant. You cultivate that feeling first. From that state of being, you naturally start to do things that are in alignment. And then, as a natural result, you start to have the very things that match who you've become. So, all of this leaves us with one last, really powerful idea to chew on. It suggests that life might be less like a script that we're forced to follow, and a lot more like a game. And for most of our lives, we're completely immersed in it. We believe we are the character on the screen, totally subject to the game's rules and its code. But what happens when you realize you're not the character? What happens when you remember you're actually the player, and you've been holding the controller this whole time?